Good afternoon. I'm Chris Cooney, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here to this third edition of the COVID recovery Zoom call. We have city, state, and federal officials with us to help update us and guide us through the latest information and resources that are available to you as a business owner and a nonprofit. I want to first acknowledge that this is Passover and Easter, and for all of you heading into or celebrating this holiday, we wish you a wonderful holiday, and this weekend is supposed to be beautiful, so please try to get outdoors and enjoy a little bit of this weather without getting too close to anyone. I want to remind you, we have over 100 people registered for this session. It's going to last about 1 hour. We will record this session and make all of the resources available to you via our website, which is metrosouthchamber.com. And that is has a section called COVID Relief or COVID Recovery. And everything we've talked about today and in the past is all listed there, including recordings from the previous weeks. I want to acknowledge our promotion partners, fellow business organizations that have helped us promote these sessions, which we plan on continuing as long as they are helpful and gaining you help in getting through this. So the Avon Industrial Park Association, the Bridgewater Business Association, the Brockton Area NAACP, the Cape Verdean Association, the Eastern Chamber of Commerce, the East Bridgewater Chamber of Commerce, the Haitians United organization here in Brockton, the Norwell Chamber of Commerce, the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce, the Randolph Chamber of Commerce, the South Shore Women's Business Network, the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce. All these organizations are affiliates or partners in promoting this event. We want to thank them for helping us get the word out. I also want to thank our chamber staff, Lexi Reinertson and Emma Stratton, for helping to promote this and get the technology in place through Zoom. So we're delighted to have with us, again, folks from the city, from the state, and from the federal government. We've got a few variations from last week, but I'm going to basically create those introductions as we go. First off, I want to welcome the mayor of Brockton, Bob Sullivan. As you've heard me say before, he and his wife are on the front lines. She is very active in health administration and has been for many years. The mayor, of course, is serving in his first term as mayor, eminently qualified as someone born and raised here, as was his wife, educated at the high school here in the city, gone on to Boston College and New England School of Law, and also served 14 years as city council, with 5 of those as president of the city council. So, and Mayor, I know you're here with me. Can you give us an update on what's going on? We understand there's been some change since last Friday.
Sure, Chris. First of all, I want to thank you and everybody at the Metro South Chamber of Commerce, of course, our friends at the SBA. This is, of course, the 3rd Friday we've done this. I'll tell you, we've gotten some positive, very, very positive feedback from business owners in the city of Brockton, small, mid-sized, large business people, just saying, hey, it's a wonderful information tool that's done every Friday. They look forward to it. So as long as you and friends at the SBA want to do it, I'm going to be participating. I will tell you, I was on a call for an hour yesterday with all the local banks, all the local CEOs of those financial institutions, and they pretty much echoed the same sentiments, that a lot of their customers that are doing applications have gotten some really positive information and guidance from these calls. So it's a wonderful thing that you're doing and your staff. And at the end of the day, we're all in this together. I keep saying it. Now, the positive thing is we know at some point we're going to get past this pandemic, and then businesses need to start again and reestablish themselves. And that's really the genesis of why we're doing this. But the negative thing is the loss of life. As I speak to you now, 18 residents in the city of Brockton have passed away because of the COVID-19. We have 584 residents confirmed. And again, I just got off a 1 o'clock call with all the hospitals, and they're saying the same thing. The next 3 to 4 weeks is going to be really the pinnacle of this pandemic. So I wish everybody safety and good health. Again, I also want to wish everybody a happy Easter, and if you celebrate Passover, happy Passover. But again, I learn every week from these calls, so I'm looking forward to hearing more information. And again, if anybody needs anything from me at any time, City Hall is closed to the general public, Chris, but it's open, and I'm there every day. So 508-580-712 is the mayor's office. And I know we're also joined again this week with former mayor and great city councilor at large, Moses Rodriguez, is listening in, the Cape Verdean Association. So I thank everybody for their support and their prayers during this time, and we'll just keep rolling up our sleeves and working in a positive, diligent manner.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we've heard that Brockton has become a center of growth in both deaths and in infection. And I know you've been pretty strong this past week in reminding people that a family celebration is not acceptable. You really, it doesn't matter whether they're related or not, you want to keep folks down to less than 10 people, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we have to, again, I'll tell you, my mother's birthday's today. My mom's celebrating her birthday today, April 10th, and we just drove by the house, honked, and waved to her. I mean, it's the new abnormal normal. And I think I really need to just keep reiterating, vast majority of Brockton residents are adhering to the social distancing standards of 6 feet or hopefully more. But there are, a small few of people that are treating this more like an extended vacation or holiday. And I want to thank Brockton Police. They've been helping me so much, moving people along. And, I just want people to realize that the severity of this virus, and John McGarry, the health officer, can confirm this from the Board of Health. If we don't all get on the same page and treat this serious, the 3 to 4 week projection will be extended. And unfortunately, the loss of life will continue. So again, I've closed the playgrounds. I actually locked the gates at DW. You can't drive into DW Fields Park anymore. The golf course has been closed for 3 weeks, but people are still jumping and playing golf, and people are playing basketball that shouldn't be doing it. And we had a congregation of quite a few people hanging out at a local car wash. So again, all I can say is please, please, please adhere to what the healthcare professionals are telling us. We'll get through this, but we only can get through this working together in such a positive, collaborative manner.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you for your leadership. We appreciate all you're doing and your family's doing, and also your participation in these calls. So we have once again with us Margaret LaForest. Margaret is from the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. She was on a call again, as she is every Friday, with Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of Economic Development and the Workforce Secretary as well. Margaret, welcome back. What are you hearing that's new on your end in terms of unemployment filings and business assistance?
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I think it's important to know that the Commonwealth is here as a partner for the greater Brockton community. Under normal circumstances at the Mass Office of Business Development, I would be connecting your companies, listening in with the resources available from the Commonwealth. In the COVID times, I am responding to a variety of questions each day, oftentimes troubleshooting a lot of the SBA calls, and it's great to have Susan Laurie on board today. But I'm going to put in the chat window my contact information and welcome any of the participants to contact me offline with specific questions. And if I haven't heard the question before to have the answer, I can expedite internally getting that for you. The Governor Baker each day does a live update, and that time has varied day to day, but it's always posted on the state's website. In fact, today's time is at 2 p.m. So it's right now while we are here on this call. So anybody wants to hear the governor's daily updates, check the website and I'll give you that link. I did just have a call with the Lieutenant Governor and Secretary Keneally of Housing and Economic Development and Secretary Acosta in Labor and Workforce Development. I'll start with the unemployment updates from Secretary Acosta. So prior to COVID, there was a team of 50. We had one of the lowest unemployment rates, employment levels Massachusetts has seen, and we went from a staff of 50 Commonwealth employees to now over 600. They have not started up their call center because just the volume coming in, in handling it, want to provide a good service to the residents of the Commonwealth. So Secretary Costa every day does a virtual town hall. We do these throughout the week in English and in Spanish. You get updates directly from the Secretary as well as Q&A. So I will put that information in, and as soon as we can staff up, we have sufficient staff to get the call center up and running, we will be doing that. They are making outbound calls. I think she said there was 60,000 outbound calls returned. So there's a very high volume, and we do appreciate your patience. In particular, the self-employed and the contractors, the gig economy, people whom traditionally are unable to collect unemployment. There's been a lot of anxiety and waiting since the announcement that they'd be able to. A lot of these companies have been closed for a few weeks now and are anxious for those funds. I assure you that Secretary Acosta's team is in overdrive trying to get this done. She did provide an update yesterday that it looks like it may be the end of the month. And I just want to explain why that's taking long, because I hear the frustration. When an employee who gets a W-2 is paid, they are in the Commonwealth system. The company's in the system, the W-2 employee is in the system. This unemployment, traditional unemployment with the gig economy are people who are not in the system. The Commonwealth is starting from scratch and standing up a system to be able to provide these benefits. So I assure you we have a great team working on it. And as soon as that is posted, I will be in touch with you, Chris, and our economic development partners. I'll also put in the chat window the link for where you can be checking on that for those as well. The other of the layoff program that we've talked about, and I want to make sure your companies are familiar with, is the WorkShare program. And this is a layoff aversion program where I'll just give a quick example of if your employee is a full-time employee working 5 days a week, the company wants to reduce them to have them working 3 days so they can keep them employed. Those employees would be able to collect unemployment insurance the other 2 days a week. Now, with the federal benefit that you're hearing about, the $600 weekly benefit that's being provided through the CARES legislation, these WorkShare employees are also eligible for that benefit. So just to be clear, I know it's a real struggle for these small business owners to understand, how they're able to afford to keep their staff, and you obviously want to, when we do start to normalize, bring them back. Well, this way may be a way for those who are reducing their operations to keep their staff employed. You can reduce their hours anywhere from 10 to 60%. So maybe they collect unemployment 3 days and you're paying them 2, and then they also get the $600 benefit. That $600 benefit you're hearing a lot about is retroactive to March 29th, and the Commonwealth Unemployment Insurance will be sending those payments start this week. So they'll be seeing those are on direct deposit or in a check. The first funds will start flowing this week. So that's been an update. Another topic we were hearing today was about a lot of concern about people going to the grocery stores. Right now, all of a sudden, the grocery stores are part of our first response team. So the administration is releasing some guidance for grocery store operators, and it'll be internally, as far as people in the store shopping, they're going to reduce their capacity to 40%. For people who are feeling concerned about their individual health and whether they're experiencing COVID symptoms and what they should do, where they should go, kind of next steps, the administration has partnered with Buoy Telehealth, and I'm going to put that information in your chat window as well, as far as a link. A lot else happening. If I know Mayor Sullivan had talked about his network in the Good Samaritan Hospital and some of the Brockton frontline first responders and coordinating some PPE. The state is also doing a program coordinating PPE for companies willing to donate. And you also probably recently heard First Lady Lauren Baker and announcing the COVID-19 relief fund. $13 million was already raised. I'm sure the number's gone up since it was announced. And what we'll be doing is working with the organizations, the partner organizations, that your local social service agencies, right? So we're seeing that food pantries are getting enormous increase in need in response. And so the local nonprofit social service agencies are going to, that's who the funds there are going to be directed. Some of who the funds are going to be directed to, and I'm sure your social service agencies are feeling that as well. a lot we have on this line today, so I won't steal her thunder, Susan. With the SBA, I have a lot of information on that. It is not a program; it's a federal program, not a state program. But Susan and the team at the SBA are very much one of the partners at the Office of Housing and Economic Development. One of the agencies that is funded through the Mass Office of Business Development is the Small Business Development Center. You probably heard of the SBDC or SCORE. These are two agencies that provide technical assistance in helping complete the EIDL and the SBA program loans. I'm sure Susan will give you some more information about that, but know that as you have questions, and I think too, the stress around the situation, there is free technical assistance. You're seeing a lot of, promotion for assistance. There's free technical assistance provided by the state, provided by the federal government, a lot of volunteer mentors. So take advantage of the resources. I'm happy at the end of this to answer any questions. And again, offline, if I can be of any assistance to the companies in the greater Brockton area, I welcome you to contact me. And Chris, to you, to your team, Lexi, you have been a tremendous partner. You've pushed out so much information. I know you've been participating with our calls with the secretary and in communication with me throughout the week. So I really appreciate it. And I too want to offer a happy Eastover, happy Passover to everyone on the call today.
Thank you so much, Margaret, and thank you for your advocacy on behalf of our region. I know you're a native of Quincy and you were a former city councilor up there, but you're spending a lot of time in Brockton and helping us. So we appreciate your commitment and acting as a liaison. As Margaret mentioned in the Q&A down the bottom of your screen, if you have questions, please begin to put those questions in, and we'll answer as many as we can, and then sort those out to each of the panelists as need be, and get you answers in the hours and the days ahead. So next, we're delighted to have with us Susan Laurie. Susan has been behind a lot of this from the very beginning. She's been an instrumental partner from the Small Business Administration. She has a long career with the federal government and has had everything to do with building the office in Brockton in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. So that we recently, actually in January, leading up to this, signed a letter of agreement between the SBA and the Chamber to act jointly in the best interest of businesses in the city and the region. And so it was great to have Bob Nelson here. And again, a lot of the credit goes to Susan Laurie, who put this together. So I'm just going to tell you a little about Susan. She's going to do the presentation, and then Eli is going to jump back on for the Q&A as well. And we'll have the whole panel available for questions at the end. So again, as I said, Susan's a business opportunity specialist and economic development specialist for this Region 1, which is all of Massachusetts, but particularly services Brockton, and is around Brockton and out at the Chamber events and offices quite often, and we're happy to have her here. She also oversees or is a liaison with the SCORE chapters throughout this region that are centered and headquartered in Brockton. In addition, Susan Laurie has a degree in accounting and taxation. She doesn't like me saying this, but she was with the IRS for many, many years as an advocate and associate, and someone who helped businesses and people get to the other side. So she was on the good side of the IRS, and we're happy to have that taxation and business knowledge that she brings to the position. So Susan, can you run us through some of the updates? I know in particular today's the first day self-employed business owners can apply for the PPP loan. What we were told as of yesterday is $3.5 billion have been approved for Massachusetts-based businesses. That is about 16,000 companies that have been approved. I was talking to some bank presidents yesterday, and some of the banks have said they're processing loans at around 170,000 average for applicants. So happy to hear what you have for us in terms of updates.
Sure, great. Thank you very much, Chris. And I just want to thank everyone on your team for their technical work and their hard work in putting this all together. And, it's partnerships like you and the Chamber that we can disseminate this information, and we're all here to help small businesses in any way we can. And as the mayor said, you know, we have to work through this together, and we have to do what's right for everyone, and we'll get through this faster and we'll recover. And I thank Margaret for her comments, because we give money to the state, and the state supports organizations that help small businesses, and I will talk about those. As far as the application, so just a couple of things before I go into a little bit of the details. This is the largest economic recovery in history. Congress brought this out, they approved it, and within 5 days, we had to put this system together and get it working. And it's not perfect, and I'm sure everyone's heard, you know, it's like flying a plane and building it at the same time. So, but we will get through it. We are fixing, you know, the hiccups. And as of yesterday, there was over 500,000 applications and 130 billion approved throughout the United States. And as you mentioned, Chris, 3.5 billion in Massachusetts and approximately 16,000 applications. I was on a call this morning. I know that we have over 4,000 lenders working on the PPP program. And again, this is a monumental undertaking, and we're doing everything we can, and we will get to it. We'll fix the hiccups, which we already are, and I'll go through some of that. Just to give an example, TD Bank, one of the largest banks, on the first day, last Friday, when they were accepting applications, they got 25,000 applications. That's just one bank in one day. So I'll go through some of the, I know a lot of you are familiar with the program. I'm just going to do a brief overview of both of those programs and then give you some updates and what you should expect or what you should be seeing. So the Paycheck Protection Program. Right now, it's been $350 billion that was set aside, and I'm sure we're all listening to Congress and waiting for more monies to be appropriated for that program. That program applies to all businesses, including self-employed individuals, sole proprietors. You can apply for both programs. You just can't use the money for the same thing for both programs. So there is a loan forgiveness in this program. So the way the program works is you get 2.5 times or 250% your payroll for 1 month. When you go to the bank and apply for this program, the bank is going to ask you for your payroll numbers. They're probably going to ask you if you have several employees for your payroll tax information that you submit quarterly to the IRS to pay those payroll taxes. And each lender is going to be slightly different, but they're going to expect those numbers and they want that documentation. So that's my first suggestion to all the small businesses, is to get your documentation together and find out exactly what the lender that you're going to use needs for that application. There is a loan forgiveness in that portion. And as you can see, it's the 8 weeks following the date of the loan origination. So some of the questions we had were, well, what if one of my employees left or they can't come back if I hire someone else? It's really all based on numbers and keeping that payroll. So whatever that payroll is, you need to keep that payroll. There is a little bit of forgiveness in that, and I think it's up to 25%. And as far as the loan portion, 75% of that loan needs to be used for that payroll, and up to 25% can be used for non-payroll costs, such as mortgage interest, utility cost. Now the EIDL loan also covers some of that. So you just have to be able to sort of put it all together and not use the money for the same purpose. If you took out EIDL and you use that, you cannot take out the paycheck and use it for the same thing. So this is where we say consult with your SBA resource partner, your accountant, or your advisor or your banker to work with you and prepare that application. Here are some of the particulars on the Paycheck Protection Program. It's a maximum loan amount of up to $10 million. It doesn't mean that you're going to specifically get what you ask for. They're going to go by your payroll figures that for the past year or whatever you have reported, whatever you can show. It's a phenomenal interest rate of 1%. The loan maturity is 2 years. Your first payment is deferred for 6 months. And again, as I said, it goes through an SBA participating lender. They are working right now to get online lenders and more lenders in the program to be able to provide those loans, including lenders like Cabbage, Payroll, On Deck, even PayPal. The loans are backed 100% by SBA. This is what makes it easy for the bank to give out those loans or to process them. There's no collateral required, no personal guarantees, there's no borrower or lender fees. Just a couple of things on that payroll protection program. Some of the numbers that I got in this morning were that 70% of small businesses applied for that. 72% of them were successful in getting that application through.
Chris, while we're waiting, there's a couple questions in the chat window on Workshare. So why don't I take those? The question, is that okay?
Yes, great.
Could you clarify the Workshare? It was not clear about the period that is covered and what happens if the business gets PPP for 8 weeks. Is this available outside the week, 8 weeks for PPP, let's say after end of May? There was a second Workshare question down here. So the Workshare is a program that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts offers anyways, regardless. This is not a COVID program. So typical unemployment insurance eligibility is 26 weeks. This federal guidance of the CARES Act provides an additional 13 weeks. So Workshare is a program that's valid up to 52 weeks. So a company can have multiple Workshare plans. So say, for example, a company had each group that goes on Workshare, you just have to be consistent. So if you're going to reduce hours, let's say by that 40%, let's say by the 60%, that's the max, 60%. The company would pay the employees 2 days a week. You would set up a Workshare program, and I will tell you, any company that's applying for Workshare, when you walk through the eligibility, they're being approved, right? So in this times of COVID, it says online a 10 or 14-day turnaround. They are expediting that. And really, if you're applying for layoff aversion right now, with all of the unemployment insurance, we're approving them. So understand that if you opt to do this, the employee works the 2 days a week. So if you reduce 60%, the employee is going to work 2 days a week. The company is going to pay them 2 days a week. The other 3 days a week, the employee is not working, and that employee is collecting unemployment insurance. That could continue for 52 weeks from when you set that up. While these employees, because of the timeline through July 31st of that $600 benefit, if this employee is on Workshare through July 3rd through July 27th would be the end of that pay period, that employee would weekly, in addition to their 2 days of unemployment, or, I'm sorry, 3 days of unemployment insurance, would weekly get that $600 payment. So this is a really good tool, this Workshare program, for you to reduce your staff, keep connected with them, keep them working, and be ready to bring them back online when your company's ready. So, the other question was, how does this work with PPP? Okay, so PPP, employers have up until June 30th to restore their payroll to the pay period of February 22nd, I believe. So if you were then opted to take employees, so let's say June 30th, you bring everybody back and then you have your 8 weeks, the PPP is also relative to the loan origination date. So I don't want to get too in the weeds of, I guess, timeline. But if you were utilizing PPP, you'd be restoring them full time. So if you were waiting for PPP and you did this for, let's say, April and May, and your PPP loan originates in June, you could be on workshare for April and May with the reduced hours that you'd be paying, the company would pay. The employee would get the unemployment and the $600. When the PPP loan comes through, that employee would be hired back to their regular full-time hours. So whether this tool is available regardless of COVID, and it has up to 52 weeks versus the unemployment typical 26 weeks. Happy to talk. And if a company wants to have multiple, so you have one team and you're going to reduce them 60%, you have another team, maybe you're going to reduce them 30%. You can run multiple work share programs, and I'm happy to talk offline as to how it would specifically work for your company.
Okay, great, Margaret. There was another one from as a contract labor. Let's see, I'm a travel agent and only get paid by commissions. I am not getting any commissions now because so many trips and travel plans are canceled. Am I eligible for the $10,000 forgiveness loan?
Yep, so Susan's not back on, right?
No, but Eli is with us, but he's on mute, it looks like.
No problem. Eli, you're welcome. Sure. I'm happy to take it, but if they're here, I'd rather them answer it.
Sure. Eli, can you hear us?
Certainly can.
Yes.
Good
great.
afternoon, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Good. I'm sorry. Was there a question or?
Yeah, it was relative to the EIDL loan advance of $10,000. This is a travel agent who gets paid by commission, but he's not receiving any commissions now because of the travel ban. Is he eligible for the $10,000 EIDL loan?
So the advance of up to $10,000. Let me make it clear for the listeners. The advance of up to $10,000 is the portion of the economic injury disaster loan that's going to turn into a grant and be forgiven. Now we're hearing from small business owners who have gotten approved that it is really based on the number of employees. So it is $1,000 per employee they have on payroll, the advance itself. And there is a box on the application that asks you how many employees do you have. So although this has not been confirmed by the Office of Disaster Assistance, it seems to be the case from the small businesses that we are in communication with and who have gotten these loans. So good news is that we're getting a dozen or so loans approved every day. They range anywhere from $15,000 all the way up to $1.5 million. Okay, but that's the best answer I've got for you so far.
Well, that's very helpful. So it looks like there's an example up there, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and Grants Response Email. Do you see that slide?
So that is an official, that's an official response from the Office of Disaster Assistance. Usually when people get this information, they're further into the process. A loan officer has looked at the paperwork, and again, this is what we're hearing from the folks with the Office of Disaster Assistance, is that they're loosening up the rules a little bit when it comes to collateral requirements and personal guarantees. So unofficial, but the amount that will require personal guarantees has been raised, and the amount that's going to require collateral has also been raised. So there's a lot more flexibility, with this program than what we had last week or the week before when we talked about it.
Okay, so Eli, going back to that question, if that travel agent is set up as a business and has a tax ID number, he would be eligible for applying, correct?
That is correct. And effective today, a sole proprietor that has no W-2 employees and an independent contractor that gets only 1099 miscellaneous income would be eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program as well. So, good news all around. I would highly recommend that the individual small business applies for both. As a matter of fact, and I don't know if I shared this with everybody or some of the folks who were last week on the call. Perhaps some folks are joining us today for the first time. But the order in which we are recommending small businesses apply for these programs is the Paycheck Protection Loan Program first. The deadline for that program is June 30th. So that program, obviously, there is a limited amount of funding available, and it's going to run, and perhaps it could run out of funding before June 30th. But even if it doesn't, the deadline is June 30th. Whereas for the economic injury disaster loan, deadline is December 31st of 2020. So there is a little more time to apply for, the IDA loan versus the Paycheck Protection Loan Program.
Okay, that's very helpful. Well, if Susan jumps back on, we can kind of go with the slides. But other than that, I'm just going to start into the questions, if you're okay with that.
Fine with that. Let's go for it.
Okay, great. So there are a number, it looks like people are submitting them under the chat and also the Q&A. So I'm going to try to kind of split these out. Someone's asking on a 1099, if they are on a 1099, will that qualify them for unemployment?
So you can only, again, I'm pretty sure that, there's other people on the line who are the experts when it comes to the Department of Unemployment, Mass Department of Unemployment, but you cannot double dip, so you cannot be both on unemployment and, benefit from one of the small business loan programs.
Okay, so I think her, I can't tell, Lori Hepworth wrote this question in, but our 1099 is valid for payroll. So she might be asking if the PPP would accept 1099 as a person who is on the payroll.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very simple, again, I don't know if Susan got through the entire presentation as far as the application process goes. Very simple step. So 1099 independent contractors qualify effective today. If you've got a 1099, let's say of $50,000, you would divide that by 12 to get to the monthly figure. Then you multiply that monthly figure by 2.5. That's how you get to the loan amount. So you would qualify for up to 2.5 times the monthly amount on the 1099. So a very simple, very basic. It's a 2-page application. We will send out the PowerPoint, following this conversation, and I'm sure Lexi can share that with the audience. There's links to the application. If you go on our website at www.sba.gov/paycheck protection, you can find all the information you need about the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, the documents, the borrower form is there. And truly, that is the only document you need to fill out initially to get the process started with a bank or a credit union.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Eli, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm back. I've been back, but I raised my hand. I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay. So do you have a couple more slides you want to complete, and then we'll jump back to the Q&A, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, if that's okay. Thank you.
Go ahead. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So on that Paycheck Protection Program, if you look at the second bullet point, it talks about the 8 weeks following the date of the loan origination. I think that's what Eli was referring to. And I apologize, that's what happens with technology sometimes.
We understand. Everybody's working from home and doing the best they can. So thank you.
So under the Paycheck Protection Program, as I said, the loans are up to $10 million. The interest rate is 1 year, two-year maturity. The first payment is deferred for 6 months. You need to go through a lender. I think Eli was talking about it. It's 2 pages. It's very easy to do. Yes, self-employed people are eligible, but as Eli said, you can't be using the EIDL money for paychecks or your payroll or your paycheck and then use the PPP for the same thing and then collect unemployment. So you really have to figure out what's best for you. And this is where you want to talk to your advisors or maybe get some help from SCORE or the MSBDC, and I'll give their information in just a minute. As far as the economic injury disaster loan basics, That's all online. You can see COVID-19 relief.sba.gov. That loan advance is up to $10,000. It doesn't mean you're going to get $10,000. Every small business and every application is different, and a loan specialist is going to determine that. And you could still get the advance even if you're declined or denied for the loan, and it will be forgiven.
So Susan, are you, can you advance the PowerPoint as well, or who's got access to the
I
slide?
do. Where do you want me
Okay.
to go?
So we're still looking at the economic injury disaster loan on this slide. So if you could just follow to the subject you're discussing.
Sure. So on the economic injury disaster loan, the features,
You
this,
might have to hit share screen, Susan.
I'm sorry, what?
You might have to hit share screen because it's on an old slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Great,
All right,
perfect.
there we are, sorry about that. So all loans under the economic injury development disaster loan program. So the maximum loan amount is up to $2 million. The interest rate is 3.75 for profitable business, 2.75 for private nonprofits. It goes up to 30 years. Your first payment is deferred for 12 months versus on the PPP, it's 6 months. The things I want to point out, I want to get to the Q&A, especially since we're running out of time and we had a hiccup there. I want to point out on the economic injury disaster loan, if you applied for the loan when it initially first came out, if your screen did not look like this, if you did not do the streamlined process, then you did not apply for the grant. So if your screen did not look like this, you want to go back in and do that streamlined process, which is very fast. You can get it done in 20 minutes. You do not lose your place in line. From when you filed for the first time, that's your place in line. And what's more important here is I did a couple of screenshots so people would understand, because a lot of people said, well, I applied and I'm not hearing anything. Here's a couple of screenshots that I received from people who were accepted. They got an email. This is one of the screenshots from the email they got saying, here's the loan amount that you can get. How much do you want? Accept it. And you continue on through the portal. So for those people who have applied and are waiting, these are the things that you're waiting for. You're going to get an email. This is one of the screenshots from that. Here is another screenshot from that. Eli, do you have any comments on this?
I think this is pretty self-explanatory, Susan. Thank you.
Thanks. So I just wanted to bring those forward so people know. And I was on a call this morning with Bob Nelson. As of yesterday, we were told that within 24 hours, those advances are going to start hitting those accounts. So please do look for them. Please check your email, maybe check your spam box to make sure that it didn't go in there. But those are the screenshots. Those are the things that you're going to be looking for. And if there's anyone on the line who did get that screenshot or got the email saying you were accepted, if you could please let us know, we'd love to hear that. Some of the other programs are the debt relief program, and that's where the SBA is going to cover your loan payments on existing in-process 7A, 504, and micro loans. And then there's also the Express Bridge Loan Program. And again, these slides already went to the chamber. The chamber will post them. The links are all hot. You can click on those links to learn more information and how to apply for those and who to contact. Okay, these are the things I want to point out. If you need help with those payroll taxes or putting together a spreadsheet, these are the people that are there to help you. Margaret spoke about this. And we've got SCORE, we've got their information, their contact information, the Center for Women in Enterprise, and the MSBDC. You can see their websites there. They are all working via Zoom, Skype, phone, email, whatever it is to help you and assist you. And Eli, I'll open this back up to you or to anyone else who has questions. And again, sorry about the technical difficulty.
Well, thank you, Susan. Greatly appreciate that. And Chris, if I may just jump in real quick, because I do want to remind everybody on the line that if you have currently an SBA loan, whether it's a micro loan through one of our micro lending partners, whether it's a 7A loan through a bank or a credit union, or whether it's a 504 loan with one of the, the CDCs, the SBA is going to be making the next 6 months worth of payments for all of those loans. It's an automatic. You do not need to do anything. So the banks or the credit unions or the CDCs are the ones who are going to notify the SBA what the monthly payment is. You automatically would qualify for the relief. And if your bank or your credit union or CDC for that matter was gracious enough to grant you a deferment, you're not going to miss out. So we're still going to be paying 6 months after the deferment period. Okay, and that goes for new loans that get approved after the 27th as well. So major benefit, to all SBA borrowers. And the reason I do bring it up is you guys probably have heard us say this, but we're one of the most productive offices in the nation. And here in the state, we definitely expect a big benefit out of this program because of the large number of loans we've approved over the years.
That's terrific. Thank you, Eli. There are a number of questions from people asking about the payments. You covered that a little bit. Susan also mentioned that she had I think a tweet the other day from a person in Massachusetts who had received a payment. So many people applied on the second or third day of the program. The application did say you might have funds in your account within 3 days. I basically told people to double that. But now we're hearing that funds are likely to hit next week. Would they just be received in someone's account, or would they, for example, on the 10,000 advance, up to 10,000 advance, would they get an email back? Would they get some type of correspondence from either the SBA or the bank?
So with regards to the advance, Chris, the people that did request the advance, they had to provide their bank name, bank routing number, and account number. Those advances are going to hit your account. The word we got it late last night. He said within the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm assuming business days. So between today and Tuesday, we should anticipate a lot of those advances to be, in people's bank accounts. What Susan was referencing as far as the email goes is for the actual loan, correspondence and approval. So that's going to be sent to you via email, a similar message to the one that we've got on the shared screen.
Okay. We also, I was on a call with the U.S. Chamber this morning, and they had a customer service for the EIDL loan. And I provided that, I believe, to Alexi and Emma. So I'm going to ask them to go ahead and post that website. No, I'm sorry, it's an email address actually, where you can actually put in your confirmation number that you received and ask for a status. So we will post that, and people can try their luck there. I know even our bookkeeper put it in this morning. I haven't spoken to her after, so I don't know if she received a response right away or what the status is. So again, we want to, just to kind of give people a perspective, there was 3 times the amount of the loan advance, EIDL, in applications than is money actually available. So you started to see a little bit of a prioritization that's been highlighted in various news articles, including the New York Times this morning, where they're talking about up to 10,000. It's not going to be automatically 10,000. I saw a reference to the number of employees that you may have entered in that question that said how many people are employed, and that it may be prorated based on that in order to provide more funds to more businesses and rather than having people left out. So keep that in mind. If you applied for 10, you may not get all 10. If you've got 6 employees, I was told on average you might get $6,000. I read that in an article today. So I'm just looking through. Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in there because I was on a call with Bob Nelson this morning.
Okay.
And the idea is that right now we only have that chunk of 350 billion. So the idea is to help as many small businesses as possible. So therefore, there may be a limit. And my understanding is you will receive an email. If you're doing direct deposit, then the grant would go into your account and you would receive an email.
Okay. So we got some, thank you for that clarification. We've got some good questions here. One is regarding the mission critical or essential businesses. We have a florist who's wondering if they handling funerals is permissible under the state listing. Can you comment on that, Margaret?
Yes. Sorry.
Yep, you were off mute and now I think you're back on. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So, you know, at the florist shops, I was part of the team for Secretary Keneally that reviewed all of the essential 7,000 plus inquiries for essential businesses. And they did update guidance for the florist. I think when you're reviewing it, it's a matter of your staff isn't able to come into that retail establishment. It's not it's not an essential business. But are you the owner going in, preparing flowers and delivering them to the door without contacting, utilizing good social distancing? So that's the difference. But if you're saying, oh, yep, I want to be essential, funerals are essential, I want to provide kind of supply chain for that essential business, but you're not, the guidance on the florist was that employees are not coming in, your front door retail operations are not to be open.
Okay, so they were wondering if they could take internet orders and just put them outside, having the credit card already been processed and all of that.
Yes, you're allowed to transition to e-commerce.
Okay, so they
But
can't.
employer only. The staff isn't eligible to be doing that.
They're not required to do it, and they
No.
shouldn't be doing it. So the owner can go in, the owner can take an order online, process the order, leave the flowers out in front, and the person can pick them up.
Yes. So
Okay.
like Amazon, you're gonna get a text message, your package was delivered, but you're not having that, personal interaction. And I know, luckily the weather has been improving, leaving the flowers out there, but that was the guidance that we've received. But for sure, that front door retail is not considered.
And are they okay to deliver it as well to a funeral home or to a gravesite or a home? Flowers?
Yes, but again, it's that non-personal delivery arrangements.
Okay, has to be no touch. Okay, all right, that's helpful. There's also a question for you, Margaret. Well, we've got you on the extra $600. How will they be able to distinguish that they are not laid off, but hours have been reduced? Thinking about, you see that question?
Yes, I did, and I think I messaged, typed into the chat box for that. So,
all right, perfect. Let's move on. Go ahead.
So the work share plan, when the company sets them up for the unemployment, they'd set up a specific employee. So the company comes in first. There could, if you're talking about we want to bring them back part-time and utilize work share now, I offered to talk to them offline about that. So
Okay.
Happy to do that. Yep.
So here's a question for SBA. I did talk to quite a few local banks and even some national banks yesterday who were a little disappointed that Santander has not helped any of their business clients with the PPP or any of the lending and has basically been non-responsive. Does the SBA, or is there any move afoot to require banks who have establish these relationships with businesses to process these loans? Because quite frankly, that some of the other banks won't take them at this point because they're only helping their own clients.
Yes, Chris, I'll definitely jump in on this because it is a concern for us at the SBA, and it's definitely something we're working with the various, program participants. But first, let me share some good news for folks on the line. So we have 152 participating, lenders in the program in the state today. From last Friday, less than a week, right, in the program. And these are numbers that we've got as of yesterday, late last night. we have over 15,400 loans approved, okay, under the PPP loan program for $4.2 billion. So as of late last night, right, we've got an additional 800 some odd loans in process for another $250 million. So in total, I would say, I can certainly tell you that as of right now, we're probably over $4.5 billion in approvals. So it is remarkable when you think about it, by the numbers, we're already getting more than 1.5% of the total in just the first week here in the state. So definitely, very appreciative of the work that our lenders are doing. I know that, this program was sort of thrown on their lap, at the last minute, very short window of time to get it all up and running. I would ask small businesses on the line today to just be a little patient with their lenders. You can only imagine they're getting flooded with these requests. Some of the larger banks more so than the smaller banks, but absolutely not trying to give them an excuse. There are banks that are taking applications from known, bank clients. There are certain requirements, but those banks are out there. They're making the program available to the general public. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. I can perhaps guide you through a couple of the lenders that we know are working with the public.
Chris, if I could just jump in here on that.
Yep.
So, I've been on a lot of these calls with a lot of different communities and chambers, and this is when you really have to talk about the value add of your organization. Every chamber networking event I've ever been to is a slew of your local chamber banks. And my advice is, if your bank is not reaching out to them, who do you have a relationship with through the local chamber that you could directly connect with before you start going, into the lender match and see. I know that the banks that I've spoken with are really, they're understaffed, they're, working remote, they're doing their best to process a huge increase in volume. But think about it. This is when, for the success stories that I've been hearing, and I've been hearing from some of the banks, I've talked to some commercial lenders today, that they're going to be issuing their first PPP payments today. It said initial guidance at 5 days. Now we're saying 10 days. We're starting to see the money flow. I know there's a lot of anxiety about there, and in particular from those companies who are saying, I have strong business relationships, but my business has been successful and I haven't needed to borrow money and I'm going down in the queue. And this is when you talk about the service-oriented business and the value add of your chamber friendship. So hopefully you have some chamber bankers online if they want to maybe pop in the chat section if they're opening their doors.
Last 2 weeks we had many. I don't know if we have many today, because many of them I've spoken with personally are just overwhelmed and helping, working 14 hours a day trying to get these applications in for their local clients. But if you are a banker out there and you're able to help a small business who maybe isn't able to access help through their local bank, please post in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll refer people your way. There's a little bit of confusion over the two applications, the PPP and the IEDL. We will post links to both of those so you can see the difference. People say they look exactly the same. I believe they are different. I know they're different, but they did both try to be streamlined. Do you want to comment on that, Eli?
So the application for the economic injury disaster loan, it is all done online, and it's only available through the SBA. So you cannot go to a bank, you cannot go to a business broker, you cannot go to a loan packager to get an economic injury disaster loan. So that's very unique. It's a unique feature of the program. Again, I want people to be aware of that, not fall prey for any scammers out there who are trying to take advantage of the situation. So whereas the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, it is a two-page application, truly two-page application. You have a lot of certifications, but easy math, you just provide your information. That's the starting point to go to your bank or credit union and ask for a paycheck protection loan. So streamlined to the extreme compared to, if we have some lenders on the line, I'm pretty sure they're not in their heads right now. Compared to everything else SBA does, this is by far, 10 times, tenfold simpler.
Okay, thank you. So there is some question about the loans and grants from state resources. I know the governor originally came out with $10 million. I think he added another 10 million. There's some question whether there will be other grants or loans. But let me say this. If you're in downtown Brockton, there is a program now administered through the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. That was just announced earlier this week. And those are grants, I believe, up to $7,000. You must be in a target area in downtown. There are also regular programs from SBA. The 7A and 504 loans are excellent products with really low interest rates. Seed Corporation, that's located in Taunton, is an administrator for both of those loans in partnership with many of the banks and that service this region. So Seed Corporation, look that up. I believe it's seedcorp.org. We'll put that link up as well. They have traditional loan programs where they might be able to secure your loan through equity in your home or putting up other assets that you might have available with your business. So check out seedcorp.org. There's other questions. If clarity, some people are asking about limits on PPP. Okay, this one, hair salon is closed with 5 employees. They've applied for unemployment. Applied for EIDL for $10,000 to use for rent and utilities. They requested a copy of 1120s. This was sent, still awaiting approval. Do I have a loan application number? Do you have idea when funding will be forthcoming? So that they should have received a certificate, right, when they finished the application with a number on it, a loan number or an application number for Eli or Susan?
Yeah, hi, I'll jump in on that one. So yes, I think what she's saying is that she does have a loan number, but that she hasn't heard anything yet. And I did show I just want a couple of things. I don't know if you can still see my screen, but on the economic injury disaster loan assistance, the streamlined process, that screenshot is up right now. And that address is at the bottom of the screen. And you also have those links that you're posting at the chamber.
Okay.
Can you see that, or?
I can't see it here, but is it in the chat or the Q&A? I'm sure Lexi and Emma will get on that. Okay.
And then let me just go back. I'm just going to show you the screenshots from when.
We will have the slideshow available. Someone asked that question as well.
Yes, I sent it to Lexi. So up now is the screenshot. This is the response screenshot that you're going to see when you receive an email. And it's going to say, how much of the loan do you want? This is what you qualify for. How much do you want? And then if they need any, and then you're going to go in and you're going to create your account. You're going to have your portal. So keep looking at your email inboxes. We were told the grant money is going out today, and just make sure you check your spam folder.
Okay, so people should be getting some type of response in the next, either today or Monday or Tuesday.
They should be getting them. Again, from the beginning, they did say it was a 3 or 4 week turnaround. They've increased that turnaround. The people that applied 3 weeks ago, that's how we got these screenshots. These people are already getting their money. You know, we know that there's thousands of people who already got their money. It's just a matter of when you
come from an SBA address, or do you know who it'll come from?
You can see it. That's the screenshot. That's the email that it comes from.
Okay.
And if you look on the bottom of that screenshot, you're going to see right there the address, disaster customer service at sba.gov.
Yes, that's the one I was going to suggest people reach out to. Okay.
Exactly. And here's the 800 telephone number.
Okay, that's excellent. That's really helpful, folks, if you want to try to reach them before they close today. I don't know. I understand that office is not on the East Coast, so you might have an extra hour or two. So I'm going a little bit long, you probably noticed, because we had some technical glitches. We also have 90 people still on the call. So if that's okay, I'm just going to try to squeeze in a couple more questions. Is there anything else the panelists want to mention or talk about, commonly asked questions you've been addressing over the last 3 days or so?
Well, Chris, let me jump in real quick. A question we often get from small businesses is, can they apply for both the economic injury disaster loan as well as the Paycheck Protection Loan Program? So to make it easy for folks, right, you definitely would want to do your own analysis and figure out which one is the most beneficial product, of the two. First is the deadline as to when one program expires versus the other. But if you do have employees, and if you've got W-2 employees and payroll expenses along with your business, the Paycheck Protection Loan Program does give you the largest amount of the loan forgiveness because it's 8 weeks worth of payroll. For most businesses, payroll is the largest expense. So compared to the up to $10,000, or let's say $10,000 in the case of a large entity like that, the Paycheck Protection Program is by far the better alternative. Now, the point I was trying to make earlier is you can have both loans. So you can have both a Paycheck Protection Loan Program as well as an economic injury disaster loan, only if one is used for payroll and the other is used for all other fixed expenses. So they cannot both be for the same purpose. That's the whole point. If you do qualify for the advance on the economic injury disaster loan, and you also qualify for the payroll loan forgiveness, you have to pay back the lesser of the two. You cannot double dip. So you're eligible to apply for both. You're eligible to have both loans and programs if they're used for totally different purposes, but you cannot hold on to both forgiven grants.
Okay. So some folks on 1099s are asking how are 1099s going to be figured, and what type of proof do they need if they apply for the EIDL and the PPP? How do they prove, I guess, what items are going to be asked for to prove that they qualify for the forgivable portion of the loan?
So if we're talking about the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, Chris,
Yeah.
and then let's just assume numbers, right? Like I said earlier, let's just say $60,000, 1099. That divided by 12, right, to figure out the monthly average would give us, $5,000. So that's your monthly average times 2.5, right? That gives us $12,500. So that is the maximum amount you would qualify under the Paycheck Protection Loan Program. The same individual under the EIDL loan program perhaps would only qualify for $1,000 if they only have put down one job and they're self-employed, and that's how they should answer the question. So the Paycheck, Protection Loan Program is by far the better alternative of the two in that situation, right? And fairly easy to figure out what the payroll expense is. Okay. So when I say payroll expense, the Paycheck, Protection Loan Program does also allow for 25% of the total forgiven loan amount to be for fixed expenses as well. So mortgage interest and utilities and whatever other expenses the small business may have.
Okay. So here's, you mentioned loan forgiveness or loan payments on behalf of folks that already have loans out from SBA. This one says the 6 months of loan payments paid by the SBA on our behalf can total, in our case, about $12,000. Is this for a full payment of the principal and interest or just interest? If it includes principal, will the principal amount be taxable income as it is forgiveness of debt?
So the answer to the later question is still unclear. We're waiting. We have sent this up to the Treasury. The Treasury is in charge of both of the IRS as well as, truthfully, the program itself. So we are still waiting to see if any of the forgiven loan amounts under the CARES Act are going to be taxable, events. So whether it's the debt relief, whether it's the loan forgiveness on the PPP, or whether it's the advance on the EIDL. We do not have, a final official response from the Treasury on that. So just hang tight. As soon as we have that, information, we're going to make it available. And I'm pretty sure the Treasury is going to post something within the next couple of days.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. All right, I'm looking to see if there's any new questions here. I'm scrolling through.
I'm looking at a question that says, can you talk about credit available elsewhere? Because in some of the loan stipulations, it says that you can't have credit available elsewhere.
Thanks for that, Susan. That is actually a very good question. So credit available elsewhere is only applicable to the economic injury disaster loan. Does not apply to the debt relief. It does not apply to the bridge loan. It does not apply to the PPP loan. So under the economic injury disaster loan, because the purpose of the funds is operating expenses and working capital needs of the business, the SBA loan specialist is going to be looking at other credit available from either personal resources of the business owner or a line of credit that may be available through your primary bank. If it is for working capital needs, then obviously that's funding that's available to you. I have not heard that the SBA has been overly critical of that requirement, but that is there. And certainly, as you provide additional documentation to the loan specialist, if asked, then they may ask for a personal financial statement, which is going to reflect, your personal resources. The balance sheet of the business is going to show what you have for, for loans and accounts payable and all that other good stuff. So they'll be able to make a determination based on the documentation. But it is definitely something, to be aware of. And what I would say is that should not be the reason not to apply. Like I said, they're loosening up a lot of this requirements on the IDA loans. And if that is the better option for you, don't let that that one requirement, deter you from putting in an application.
That's great, Eli. Thank you. There is a kind of a shout out endorsement of Seed Corporation. There's a local manufacturer who has a loan with them, and Seed called him and said, you're covered for the next 6 months. The SBA is covering your the cost of your payments for the next 6 months. He didn't reach out, didn't even have to call them and ask for it. They reached out to him and offered it. So that's quite an endorsement of Seed Corporation and how they're working with local businesses to access the benefits of this 2.2 trillion incentive. I'll also let you know that the Chamber, in cooperation with a lot of business associations that are on this call, are endorsing a phase 4 incentive for small businesses. So they're talking about another $250 billion at least for small businesses, especially businesses that are the most vulnerable, small businesses. There was a question about, and this will be the last question, about new businesses. A lot of the applications ask for your last 12 months of expenses. If you just started your business in January and you're just ramping up, what relief is there for them?
All right, Chris. So that is actually a very good question, and I'm glad it was asked today, and thanks for bringing it up. So depending on which program we're talking about, that is not a disqualifier on either one of the programs we have available. But starting with the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, if your business has not been operational during 2019, but you were operational on February 15th of 2020, that's the magic date. I want everybody to remember that. So if you were operational on 2/15 of 2020, then you could utilize, instead of the payroll expenses for the previous year, you could utilize payroll expenses from January 1st of 2020 to February 29th of 2020. So that's the workaround. Seasonal businesses also have a different workaround when it comes to calculating accurately what those average monthly payroll costs are. Under the economic injury disaster loan, again, that's not a disqualifier. If you're a new business, newly established, the requirement is that you were operational as of March 18th here in Massachusetts, which is the disaster declaration date. And the burden of proof just gets a little, higher for the small businesses that don't have the historical, financials to support what their operating expenses are. But a well thought out business plan with financial projections will do the trick. So definitely for those small businesses, I would recommend they work with, the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, and the Center for Women in Enterprise. All free services to you, and they do phenomenal, job when it comes to the business plans, when it comes to working with small businesses on those projections.
Well, Eli, thank you so much. Once again, I want to thank all of our panelists, the mayor of Brockton, Bob Sullivan, Margaret LaForest from the Mass Office of Business Development, Susan Laurie and Eli Spehu from the U.S. Small Business Administration. We hope to be back to you next Friday with some examples of folks that received loans and payments. That's all of our wishes, is to start looking forward to recovery, and that's what these calls are all about. I did want to just open it up. I know the mayor is still with us, I believe. Do you want to say anything, Mayor?
No, again, I want to thank everybody that's been participating. I find this extremely informative, very, very helpful as the mayor and as a small business owner myself. This is what it's about, coming together, sharing information, best practices as we move forward collaboratively. So thank you, Chris, and the Chamber, and Lexi, and everybody that worked on this. Thank you, SBA. This is really great. And thanks to the Brockton people and residents and business owners that are participating and learning and living this process as we move forward. So thank you all, and have a great weekend and be safe.
Thank you very much, and thank all of you for operating businesses in this area and also spreading the word. All of the resources that were talked about today will be posted. We ask that you send the link to your friends and family who are in business, and hope to be back to you and see you back here next Friday. Have a great weekend. Thank you.